Welcome to the Road Hunters podcast. This is your go-to source for incredible stories, diverse perspectives, and a deep dive into the world of motorsport. I'm your host, Jonathan Bennett, and joining me on this adventure is also Mr. Andrew, as well as Wes Wickens, a fellow Rallycross racer, who will be with me when we do our Rallycross show. Now, each week, we will bring you exclusive interviews with passionate individuals from all over all different aspects of the racing community. And our goal is to showcase incredible talents, the dedication, and the stories that make motorsport so special to us all, while also shining light on the importance of mental health and well-being within the paddock. And we believe that by sharing these stories and experiences, we can inspire the next generation of motorsports enthusiasts and create a more inclusive and supportive community, just like motorsports helped me when I was growing up. I'm thrilled to be an ambassador for Driven Minds. It's an organisation dedicated to promoting and providing mental health support across the motorsport community. If you ever see any of the Driven Minds lot, on myself included, make sure you come up to us and say hi. And together we're working to break down stigmas and raise awareness and ensure that everyone in the paddock has access to the resources and support they need to both thrive on and off the track. So buckle up, join us on this exciting journey as we explore the incredible world of motorsport, one story at a time. So don't forget to subscribe to the Road Hunters podcast on your favourite platform, the YouTube channel, which also has additional stuff, and follow us on social media for the latest updates and behind the scenes. And this season, I'm personally supported by EPC Brakes and Carbon Positive Motorsport as I take on my conversion to rallying. So now, let's dive into today's episode. All right, welcome to this week's podcast, everybody. I'm with Sarah Hall. So I suppose a brief introduction to yourself, and then you can correct me, I guess, would be racing driver, photographer, motorsport presenter, driving instructor, and what else have I missed? You certainly have a range of skills and talents, shall we say.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. I've got a few skills in the bag, but yeah, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here, and that probably is the briefest overview.
Probably. I was having a look over, thinking, well, obviously I know you from Rallycross, from photographing and presenting on there, and then obviously you're in the Focus Cup with the STs.
Yeah, the diesels though.
Diesels?
So there's an interesting
I didn't know that.
Around Focus Cup. Yeah, they're really, really quite a unique setup. So we'll dive into that.
Definitely, really cool. Definitely. So yeah, you're doing that again this season, aren't you? You did something like last season.
Yeah.
You've done a bit of different driving. I know you tested like the Yakar, the cross car, which I wanted to ask you about because I really want one. I'm not gonna lie. I really want one.
If you drive one, you'll be buying it.
That's why I don't want to test one. Because it's like I gotta get the money together. Especially this year now that they've gone kind of bigger in Rallycross in the UK, and hopefully that'll then have a crossover into autocross and other things. They look amazing.
They are probably one of the most fun things I've ever driven.
I think it's high revving. It's like clicky gearbox. It's rear wheel drive. What people do say actually is that they're quite easy in some ways to drive once you get used to them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was actually really apprehensive because I've never driven anything like that before, and I wasn't sure how I'd feel about being so enclosed as well.
Good point, yeah.
Because wasn't looking forward to that. But actually, once I got in it and just found my feet with it, you can't. I shouldn't say this. You can't get it that far wrong, was what I was going to say. I'm sure people are out there to prove me wrong there, but it almost doesn't matter if you're doing it right because you will be smiling.
Yeah, I think that's it. You're having the fun because it was CDMC, wasn't it? Cramlington District Motor Club, which is right.
Yeah, we did like an
I took the Saxo there when I first got it, and did an autocross up there, which was mega fun.
Yeah.
Don't want to take the Saxo again because now it's having too much money spent on it for rallying. I want something else to go up there with and do that because it's just like so much fun. I think that autocross.
We'll have to do halves on a Yakar.
Yeah, that might be. Well, it used to. Yeah, two different series
It's
with
the only way I'm going to be
Rallycross,
able
and
to
then
afford one.
we'll do it in turns on that, definitely. Um,
Yeah.
I think that they look awesome. I think it's cool that me and Wes were talking about this in the Rallycross podcast we just started that we uploaded. That it's kind of exploding finally, I think, in England. Into that kind of category. Obviously, you've had the specials in autographs, but to now get it properly where it's coming into Rallycross, and all of a sudden, after 2 years, 3 years, the grids are starting to explode up. It's finally the British has now got it on with the RX 150s, with the FIAs in there. So it's hopefully that means some cheaper second-hand ones as well coming through. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Fingers crossed. I mean, the guys running it have done an amazing job at getting them out there and getting them on the scene.
Yeah,
I think it's
Luke
been amazing
Hollington,
to see it.
is it Alan?
Luke and I think it's
Alan
Alan.
used that into
Yeah,
SGS.
done an amazing job of
Yeah.
that. A couple of great guys, and yeah, brilliant to see it working
Absolutely. And like I say, they've blown up now, so it's really cool. I remember when you drove it and you put some videos up, and I was like, it just looks so much fun.
It was just amazing. Yeah. It was absolutely. I just remember because the field was quite dry. It was really rutty. So when you hit a rut in one of those, you get air really if you got your fast enough. And
when I did it in the Saxo, I had our 888s on Toyos, so it had no grip at all, and it was just either wheel spinning or up in the air wheel spinning. They were just like nothing, and at least that would have some grip. Be going forward.
It was pretty good. It takes the bumps really well. But yeah, it was so funny, and I obviously pushed it to the limit too much one point and span. But the grass had been cut, so there was a lot of dry grass on top of the field, and it, as I went sideways, it just all went in the cabin. And I come back, I could smell it burning on the exhaust and everything. So I pulled back in for a cool down, and I just remember at the time, I think it was my mum that was there, and I clambered out of this thing really ungracefully, and I was just head to toe. My black suit was just head to toe, like dry grass.
Excellent.
She was like, "Did you have fun there?" I was like,
"Yep." Beaming
like,
smile on your face.
Grass out. It was
excellent.
No, great.
They do. They look absolutely mega things. I think as well for what they are. I think cost and maintenance and running cost, it seems pretty good.
It's not bad. It really isn't bad at all.
So now we've gone on first tangent into cross cars. What we want to do is we're going to hit you with the icebreaker questions first. So that's sort of 5 questions, random sort of questions, and then have a delve into your kind of experience in time with the Focus Cup and racing and photography and also your driving instructor role, which we talked a little bit about earlier. So the first one is, what's one of your favourite cars of all time? I used to say, what is your favourite? And then I realised that you can't really ask car people that because they have too many.
Yeah,
so
you can't just
what
pick
is one of your favourites?
I'm going to go, for anyone that knows me, is probably going to think this is really obvious, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for a Metro 6R4.
I was going to ask you, is it going to be a 6R4 based off your email address? And I was like, I think I like 6R4s, which is a quality choice. I am all for 6R4 in every aspect.
Yeah. I mean, Group B, anything Group B, I just think is really cool. And I'm very, very lucky that I've been able to grow up around a 6R4 because my dad is building / competing in one. So I've been really, really privileged there to actually see them up close and really appreciate the car and everything that they're about. So yeah, I'll pick that one because it's always going to have a little special place in my heart, I think.
The second question is, where would you love to drive it?
Right, okay. So Barbados.
Yep, fair enough.
Because I've just been and done some competition over there, and it is just the perfect venue for one. So I'm going to go for that.
So I really want to go over to the Barbados Rally. I just like it looks incredible.
Just don't put it off. Just get it done.
It's on. There's a few things on the bucket list that kind of are. And one of them's the Barbados Rally. One of them's Nordic Life 24 Hour, probably Le Mans as well. But the Barbados Rally, 100%. and if to ever compete at that, I think would be epic as well. But I'm not quite sure how I swing it to my partner of, we're going to go to Barbados, but by the way, I'm going to a rally. So maybe it's like, I'll be like a 2-week sort of vacation.
I've got the perfect solution.
I'm all ears.
Take her to the Barbados Rally Carnival.
Oh, she'll love that.
Right? Because it's like a 2 weeks. It's known as the best motorsport holiday on earth for a reason. I did it in November and it was just epic. It was several days of different events. There's rallying, rally sprint, rallies. And I mean, you're in Barbados, so what? But you get to watch it and you get days in between to go and check out the island, drink as much rum as you could take. And it's just a bit of everything. It's fantastic. So I can't recommend that.
You've sold me. Definitely.
There you go.
Next one. What's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you at a motorsport event?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good one. I embarrass myself all the time, so it's really difficult.
Yeah. I get that a lot. I'm horrendous in day-to-day life.
I've tripped over several times because that's just the type of person I am. In car, nothing.
Fair enough.
Nothing too embarrassing, I don't think, apart from my general performance, but we won't go for that. I tell you what it'll be. Last year, put my Nomex underlayer on before my suit, bent down to fasten my shoes.
Excellent.
Split right up the bump. So that was quite embarrassing. Luckily, I have my big knickers on, so
happy days. Right. Next one then. If you could choose any celebrity to be your co-driver, who would it be and why?
Oh, celebrity. Does that include famous drivers?
The celebrity stores. Definitely.
Well, yeah. To be a co-driver, that's difficult because there might be good drivers, but there might be rubbish in the passenger seat.
That is true. I like it. These are the kind of questions I ask when people ask me questions, and I'm like, you've not defined them enough.
Yeah, be more specific. Do you know what? I think I'd actually really like to go with somebody that's probably not really car related, because I can do all the serious events that I want, but the experiences you remember are going to be the laugh.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm thinking, who would be an absolute hoot? Somebody like, I don't know, Noel Fielding, or somebody just hilarious.
Especially if you could scare him. So I reckon his humour would be even better when he's scared.
I reckon you could scare him.
Definitely.
I reckon he'd have an absolute crack. I reckon he'd be straight in the pub with you afterwards for a pint. I think he'd just be, somebody like that. I think
that's a good shout. So that's how many have I done? There we go. Last one. Lost count then. If you could create your own dream motorsport event, what would it be called and what would make it unique?
I think it would have to be some kind of ridiculous Krypton Factor style showdown where you just it doesn't even matter what you're in, bring what you want. The more ridiculous, the better. The more bangers, the better, as long as they're safe, of course. But it doesn't have to be fancy. It's not about speed. I think it'd have to be like a series of ridiculous activities and challenges.
Yeah.
In cars, though.
Did you ever watch? I think it was on Netflix, and it was like a series where they had a load of drivers who had to kind of do these sort of lots of lights and things, but obstacles and stunts in the cars.
I
I
did see
can't remember
that.
what it
I
was
forgot all
called.
about that. I can't, but something like that, but better.
Yes,
We'd top it.
definitely.
We'd make it better than that. No, hell
I
yeah.
love that program.
Um,
Just because it was stupid stuff in
yeah,
cars,
I can't
which is
think
there's
of the
nothing
name
better.
now. It's just
Yeah,
different. Just something different.
exactly. No, like it. I
Yeah.
like it very much. Well, that's that for the icebreakers. 10 out of 10. Well done.
There
I
we go.
liked the answers. I liked them very much indeed. Oh, I forgot to say at the end, actually, at the beginning, when I introduced that Andrew's not here today, everyone. So that's his shout out. That's all he's getting today. Ella's
Sorry,
laughing because
Andrew.
she just heard me in the bedroom. So, okie dokie then. So, going on then. I suppose, and you kind of touched on this earlier with your dad around the 6R4s, but what kind of, I suppose I like to ask this everybody because I like to hear the story of kind of how they developed into cars and the scene. What drew you to cars and what was your inspiration kind of growing up?
It definitely started with my dad because he's always raced bikes and cars, and since before I was probably even thought of. So I've really just grew up around it. So I guess I had that natural interest in it. I just followed him to all his events. He did rallying and rallycross and circuit racing and stuff. So I followed him as a child, really. Well, as a whole family, we went to all the events. So I've always really enjoyed it. And then, sort of school leaving age, I started to get a bit of an interest in the photography side of it. I found it really interesting to not only get the action shots, but I really enjoyed getting like the behind the
Yeah.
scenes stuff, because everything we were involved in was really like a clubman
Mhm.
level racing and really real. So to see the heart and soul that people put into these cars and these events and all the effort, midnight working in the garage trying to get the
Exactly,
car ready
yeah.
for the event the next day, put everyone in the paddock clubbing together to change an engine on a Mark II, like that's just so cool. And I just think it's just such a community, and I love that side of it and the emotion of it. So I really got into the photography side, trying to capture that, and that obviously went from there. And then as soon as I was able to actually drive, I was like, I kind of get this now. Yeah, and obviously it's not really an interest; it's more of an obsession, I think.
True,
But
yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty who'll agree with
I
that.
think they're definitely right, definitely so. So then taking that kind of photography and obviously younger and like I say as a teenager kind of going into that interest, and obviously you've done a lot of photography. That's how I first kind of met you. What was that journey like then, young, getting into that in terms of connecting with people in the paddock, or was it kind of focused more just on your family, or how did you sort of go about starting at a quite young age?
It was just focused around us initially. And then, there's always the odd person who might be interested in a few pictures. So you just kind of end up getting trackside and shooting for a few different people, some like local press as well. I was supplying pictures too. So started out like that really. And then it grew a bit from there. Yeah, it just snowballs, doesn't it? Whichever avenue you take, you end up doing more of it.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's it. As long as you're doing it and you're consistently doing it, and you're showing the passion that you
Yeah.
have for it, and I think, and that's what then obviously
Mhm.
drives it through. And I think whenever you talk to any kind of photographer, a lot of it really does come down to that passion. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily it's not an easy job to some degree, and obviously
No,
creating,
it's not. Totally agree.
you're trying to create a still image but capture the surrounding kind of goings
Yeah.
on of that. um, how long do you think it kind of took you then at that sort of age to kind of where you was quite happy with those sort of, especially the action kind of pictures and the movement and learning composition and all these
Oh, a
different bits?
long, long time. Completely self-taught. So for me, I mean, even
Mhm.
now, I'm learning things from more experienced photographers. But yeah, completely self-taught. So it just took a long time for me to find my feet with it, and I just progressed. And I think what was really nice for me was there was no real pressure behind it. I just really enjoyed doing what I was doing, and I just picked it up as I went. Made lots of different photographer
Mhm.
friends and connections and stuff, and they've all been amazing and really supportive, giving me tips and pointers and things like that to help improve. And just learning your own style as well with the
Yes.
photography, because everyone, can shoot in a slightly different way. So yeah, really good
I
generally.
think that's it. I think it's like you say, it's that consistency and passion into of keeping on doing it and keeping turning
Yeah,
up. And then I suppose people are going to see that you're constantly turning up, and you're going to see that you're constantly there, and that they're going to then want to, give their, if they can spot something that they can advise and can help you with. And then I think it's natural, especially like you say, with clubman level, in the paddocks, it very much generally is a very close knit kind of community. I find.
yeah.
And a lot of people obviously want, help each other out, whether it's on the cars or whether it's photography. And obviously from that, you kind of went into a bit on the presenting side. I know obviously you did some of the BTIDA with the Rallycross, Clubman's Rallycross series. So how did that was that a natural progression? Was it something that came to you, or did you sort of seek it out?
It did really fall at my feet, to be honest. I've never been a massively confident
Mm-hmm.
person, so I'd never really considered doing any presenting work. Didn't Just never entered my mind because I didn't feel like I could do that kind of thing. But actually, yeah, I was asked to get involved with it with the Rallycross, and it kind of started from there. Really, I found that I really enjoyed it, and what was really lovely was I knew
Mm.
the paddock really well. I knew a lot of the people, well, most of the people there, who were regular competitors. So it was a lot of it for me was like having a chat with them anyway. And again, it was a natural progression in the sense that winners just come off the track. You throw the door open and shove a microphone, in their face. I mean, you get some responses sometimes, but generally that's what's really lovely because you can see that
Yes.
emotion. You can see how much they just put into that. They're usually out of breath because it's really hard work, and that you can see that emotion there. And again, that's like the side of it that I really, really enjoy is just seeing how much people put into this and how much it means to them when it goes right.
Definitely, I think that's. I don't think I ever quite realised that feeling when you do pull off the track with the adrenaline, with everything that's going on, and I mean, I find when I drive that everything else is so calm around, but it's like until you stop and then you
Yeah.
realise like you're shaking and it's all this adrenaline and that coming off, and then like you say, you've just won it, and especially if you've been in a battle, and then you just got somebody shoving a microphone underneath you, asking you a load of questions. Yeah, hopefully one day it'll come, but I can't even imagine that. Um, so, what did you do then to kind of combat the nerves when you were first sort of doing this? Was there any, I suppose, techniques or ways you did, or was it just a case of throwing yourself in and just kind of, I've got no choice, let's go?
Yeah, it was kind of, well, I've said yes now. Throw myself into it and just say, look, you've got a job to do. Yeah, put your big pants on, just get on with it and do it and try and do it well and try and learn. And what could I do better? I'd always
Mm,
reflect on an interview and be like, oh, I sounded stupid there, or I shouldn't have said this, or maybe should have worded it like that. And some of it's natural self criticism anyway, because that's what we do. But some of it I could actually take away and just go, do you know what? Actually, it would have been better if I said it like this, or asked them this instead and done it that way. So you learn, and trying to watch other like presenters in the same or a similar
hmm
sport is really useful. Um, just to get tips and see how they present themselves and how they answer questions and stuff. Yeah, just throw yourself into it and see what happens.
Definitely, I think that's the way I think you have to do a lot of things. It's interesting what you said about reflecting
Mhm.
back on, um, something that you're doing there. So if you've asked it, and there is that self criticism element, like you say, and there is
Yeah,
also the self critique in the positive way. Did you ever find that
yeah.
there was a kind of, I suppose, that internal argument going on there where you thought, oh, why am I doing this? Like, if you think that you said something that maybe wasn't appropriate or was stupid, but in actual fact, like everybody else says, you're doing a fantastic job. Did you ever have to kind of battle those kind of feelings, knowing that this was going out and going to be viewed by however many people on TV?
Yeah, I've got massive imposter syndrome with everything that I do. That's just my nature. So that was a big issue for me, was my own self-confidence and
Mm,
self-belief. Probably too harsh on myself at times, but overall, I think it does make you better because you care enough that
True.
you're trying to do a good job. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think sometimes you do just need to go. Like, if I was absolutely horrendous, they'd have sacked me by now.
True. True. That's it.
And then, you know, if somebody wants you to be there, then you can't be doing a horrendous job. And I think half the battle is if you enjoy it.
Yes.
Like, there was some of it that was difficult for me to do, but you've got to push past your comfort zone a little bit, otherwise you don't end up anywhere. But if you enjoy what you're doing, and I enjoyed the sport as well, I think that really helps, because then you can see and hear the passion, can't you, if someone's talking about
Definitely.
something that they really enjoy anyway.
Definitely. I think that's right. I think as well that I know in my experience and that imposter syndrome, if it's something I'm passionate about, it's almost kind of worse. So, you know, when I started in academia and lecturing, I was like, I can't do this. How am I going to do it? I'm just, you know, the whole everything. You're feeling everybody. And then even though I'm 2 years into that job and it's finally setting in, like, I'll go on to a new module or something else that I've got to do, and it's like, oh no, actually I can do this. Or same with driving, same with, you know, going up to people, starting these interviews. What I actually find the most difficult now with this kind of work is actually sharing that work in terms of the social media kind of, because then I feel that's that connection to me to some degree. So I think that's really good that you were kind of saying that. Did you ever find, and I suppose this is for kind of a little bit more like the young kind of girls kind of coming through and young people as they're going up, did you ever find anything as a female in the sport and photography that there was any kind of barriers as you were developing your career, or was there not, or was it very much an equal kind of place, or what was the navigation you had to do?
I think it's a really interesting point, because sometimes there were definitely barriers. Sometimes there were absolutely none. It was a very much a mixed bag. It depended who you were dealing with and where you were. I've had some horrible situations where I was treated quite appallingly, really, purely based on the fact that I'm not a man. Unfortunately, those situations still exist. They're getting less, which is great. We're doing big things to make sure that everyone's treated fairly and equally and everything else. What I find the most interesting, you've got the people who are blatantly sexist or whatever else they are in life, and then you've got the people who are completely not that, and then you've got the people who will treat you differently in a nice way.
Yes.
It's not necessarily a good thing.
Yes.
I hope I'm explaining this right, but there are still some people that will treat you differently because you're a girl without meaning to. They're not doing anything maliciously. They're not doing anything
I suppose it's like an
purposely
inbuilt
nasty.
subconscious element there.
It's an unconscious bias
Yes,
thing that
that's
they've
it.
got going on for sure. Yeah. And those are the ones that are sort of, they're easier to deal with because I'm at the point now where I just have to smile and let it just whatever goes over your head. You can't be offended by everything. Otherwise you'll just not get out the front door every day. But it just makes me chuckle, some of the weird things that go on. Yeah, definitely things that have been said to me, but then there's a male photographer stood next to me, but they're allowed to do that.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. I see it with my.
It's hard because, like, if I'm trackside with a camera, like, I dress extremely appropriately. I've usually got 75 layers
Because you
on,
need to, because you're in
you
England,
know,
it's
fully hat,
freezing and raining all the time.
right? Walking boots the lot. So I certainly don't dress to stand out in any regard because I'm not that sort. But I've got long blonde hair. I'm not changing that because of my job. Naturally, I will stand out because there are several photographers at a track. Which one of them out of them is going to stand out? It's rare, very rare, I see another female doing photography, and I'm female with long blonde hair. It's really easy to spot me. So if you're doing anything that someone is going to notice, they're always going to notice you first, whether that's good or whether that's bad. So it's a tricky one. You've got to try and stay under the radar, which you shouldn't even have to do. but you just want to blend in. That's all. You don't want any extra attention. You're just
Yeah,
there to do your job.
I
And
was having a chat with a colleague of mine. She specialises in research in females and planning, so urban planning. And it was this story that recently that the FA has been the first organisation to implement mandatory women's health training for the clubs.
okay.
And there was this point that it's like you almost want to go, oh, that's fantastic, that's really good. But at the same time, it's like, why is it already not being done? Because this is why.
Women aren't a new thing.
Exactly. And unfortunately, when you look through history, like my research in diversity, and some of my colleagues in there, you see the difference in history between female and male, and gender role, neurodiversity, and it is while it's and often a lot of people don't, I suppose, understand it and see it if they're not actually looked into that or been at the receiving end, I suppose, of that element. And like you say, there's some elements where people are unconscious bias or a little bit ignorant, not necessarily meaning to cause offence or
Yeah.
not meaning in the way of doing it. Did you find overall, though, there was a support group? Like, if you had things happen, was support around you at least for kind of getting through and keeping on progressing? Or was it very much that you had to kind of find that inner as well to be able to keep on pushing and not let it stop you and not let those barriers kind of get in the way?
You absolutely have to just have some sort of resolve about yourself and just carry on, because if you let any negative
Mm,
vibes get in your head, for me, I can only speak for myself, but it gets you down. It's really easy to let it get to you and change how you see things and how you set your own goals and stuff. You'll give up, and you'll just you'll sort of settle on the fact that, oh well, maybe, yeah, it doesn't really matter if I do this, or maybe I shouldn't try and get there. I'll never get there. It doesn't matter, and I'll give up now. And you can't. It's very difficult to manage at the time if somebody makes a comment, or if somebody upsets you in some way. You've got to just deal with it as best and professionally, hopefully,
yeah,
as you can at the time. But you've got to just, yes, like, feel it, be angry about it. That's fine. You're allowed to, but you've got to let it go,
yeah.
because you just can't hang on to something that is going to make you bitter about things. And that's not going to get you anywhere. You just have to keep going with it.
100%, yeah. Like I say, if you can take that kind of bitter side, and then there's the element of projecting that out, and the ways that you don't want to go.
You start to believe
Mm,
it.
yeah, that
Yeah, you start to believe it.
definitely. I think that's a really good point. That, yeah, if you do harbour it, it builds and it builds and it plants that seed. And like I say, we can be
Yeah,
our own worst enemy, and as we've said, you shouldn't have to be any different in the way they are. But unfortunately, we still live in a society where that patriarchal side is prevalent. So I think that's interesting.
yeah.
And is there kind of any advice you would I suppose give to females or younger people kind of coming through and pushing their photography or anything like that? Is there anything that you would say to them, or yourself, I suppose, going back a few years?
Just keep pushing. Just keep going. I think is the only thing you can do. There's going to be things that are challenging, regardless of your
Hmm.
gender, anyway. Doors will close in your face, and it's a fickle old industry,
Mm,
because a lot of it isn't managed in the way that you've got your average job has a manager and a HR and all of this stuff. A lot of the industry doesn't have those kind of things, so you don't have that obvious or immediate support or
yeah,
backup. So you're gonna get some situations. You're gonna get somewhere you've been done dirty, and half the time you've got to let it go, which is one of the most difficult
yeah,
things, because it had been for me. I've been sort of stomped on a few times by people over the years, and it's horrible, but somehow you have to just work past it, and it does make you a bit stronger, as cliche as it is. You can sometimes spot these things coming once it's been done to you, which is a good
Yeah.
thing. You can't control what everyone else does, and if people are going to do that, you don't want to work with them anyway.
Exactly that. We had a similar situation with my partner who's mixed race, and a full business set up, and in the end, it was she had to leave. It was a safer, better alternative to end up leaving because of the environment that it put her in. But I think that's good. It's you're your main character in your story, and
absolutely. And I think it's important to keep yourself to yourself, be you, but just don't get dragged into anyone else's drama. It's not worth it. It's not worth your inner peace. Just do what you can do, and if the situation's turning out to not bring you happiness anymore, just move on.
That's it. It's not worth your happiness. And that goes for anything, not necessarily whether it's, a gender specific thing or whether it's a performance or anything. Anything, if something isn't bringing you happiness, and you need to evaluate that. I completely agree.
Definitely.
So I guess moving on then from the photography, obviously you started then kind of doing more of the driving. So 2022, so that would have been 2 years ago, was it? You went into the Focus Cup. 2022. So what kind of led you to pursuing more of coming into the racing seat?
I think I just always wanted to. It'd always been a dream to have a go. Growing up watching it and being surrounded by it and not having a go in the driver's seat in a competitive way was just, straight in and everything else. And I think for me, I almost had a bit of an epiphany during COVID. A lot changed in my life during that time. And it really made me evaluate what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be and everything else. And I'd talked about doing my race license for so many years. And I just saw it as, I'll do it one day, I'll do it one day, I'll do it one day. And one day was never coming. And I just had enough of listening to myself, to be honest. Enough of promising myself I was going to do it. Enough of waiting around for, I don't know what, someone else to push me. I don't know. So, me and a couple of friends decided that we wanted to do it. I didn't have any plans to race. I had no idea what I was going to race. But I just knew that if an opportunity came along and I didn't have my race license, I couldn't. So I thought, well, at least I've got that box ticked. We went and did it just not long after COVID, as soon as everything was kind of open and everything else. Early 21, I don't know. Yeah, it was in 21 anyway. Went into my race license and just thought, gonna do this. Sick of listening to myself talking about it.
Fantastic.
More action.
Yeah, definitely. So what was that? So obviously you would have done an ARDS test. So what was that? Because obviously we've got the bars in the rally and the one that I'm obviously booking on for this year to kind of make that transition there. But what's the ARDS test like then? What was that kind of like for you moving into that and doing that?
I was dead nervous. It wasn't as bad as I thought. I think it's really good. It was a good day. It was a fun day. I have done a fair bit of driving on track and other things, so I didn't take any coaching prior to the test, but you can, if you haven't done anything before, you can make a whole day of it and have some coaching beforehand. You do a practical element, which obviously you're on track. There'll be obviously a qualified assessor, an instructor next year. They'll talk you through the track a little bit, give you a few laps so you can get used to the feel of the car and being out there. They'll just give you a few gentle points of where to put the power on, where to brake, where to position yourself and turn into the corners. And then they'll just be quiet for, 3 laps or so, maybe a bit longer if they need a bit longer. And they'll just assess you and just make sure that you're safe. That's all they're looking for. They're not looking for hot laps. You're not at race pace. You're a lot slower than race pace. They're just looking for you controlling the car well and just not getting in people's way, and all they're thinking is, look, if I'm in a race, do I want to sit next to this person? Do they want to be in the next car? Do I want to share a track with them? And if you're safe enough, then you'll pass. There's a theory element as well, which is a written theory, which is a series of multiple choice questions, and you've got to get, I can't remember what the percentage was.
A pass mark, yeah.
pretty
I mean,
well.
it seems
Yeah.
from the people I've asked about the bars, because originally I was going to go for my arts, but I'm kind of obviously with the rally aspects, and it seems a very similar kind of
Yeah.
situation. It is more looking at that: are you safe?
Yeah,
Can you control what you're doing?
it's the same thing.
And that's it.
That's all it is. Yeah, you don't have to be fast. There's no pressure on that. You've got to know all the flags.
Yes.
You have to get 100% on the flag questions, which is
Yeah,
obviously for a
absolutely.
reason. But yeah, if it's nothing horrendously technical. It's more situational questions of, in this scenario, what is the best protocol? Just to make sure you're going to make the right decisions out there.
And then obviously you sort of passed that, you got through, you got your license. So what I suppose drove you towards the Focus kind of cup? Did you do much before that, or did you just kind of get into a couple of rounds of that and then progress in that?
Yeah, so at some point in 21, me and a few friends were going to go and do a round of the enduro car, but it was the sprint series, so it wasn't one of the long ones for me first stint out at Brands Hatch. So we went down and did that, although realistically we got 3 laps in and somebody crashed pretty bad, red flagged the race, couldn't get back out. They were upside down in a 40k, so bad, but I think they were okay, thankfully, eventually. But yeah, it was a really big rescue operation for them. So our race ended after 3 laps. So I went all the way to Brands Hatch, my first ever event. Excited,
From
nervous, all the
Teesside
rest
to
of it.
Brands Hatch. That's a fair journey.
Yeah, it was good. But it was a great weekend. We were with friends, and you just, you're frustrated at that, but you're just glad that your fellow competitors okay, and yeah, you laugh it off and go for a pint. But that was a good weekend anyway, just to kind of get out there and see what it was like to actually be on the grid competitively. And then I was actually working for Focus Cup at the time. I still am now. So I attended all their race meetings anyway. And 22 came around. So just decided, let's do one race. And I managed to do Croft, which was a double header, so it meant plenty of seat time. It was my local track anyway, so I didn't need to worry about learning the track, which was good. So I did Croft in 22 with Focus Cup, and then last year did the full season, and then this year I'll do the full season.
This year, I'm sure, yeah, you announced you were doing the full season again, which is really good.
Yeah, I can't believe it still.
That's it. Making these, like you say, making these things happen, you've got to keep pushing and to achieve it and do it. So it's interesting you were working for the Focus Cup, and obviously that's kind of how you chose that. So you mentioned to me, which I didn't know, that the Focus Cups are diesels.
They are, yeah.
So what's their kind of spec then? Because I imagine that's a bit of a different, lot of torque, not as revvy.
So it took a while, to be honest. It took me a good few rounds just to get used to really driving it, as stupid as that sounds, because we're used to being able to, rev the heck out of things, and then that's where your power is. But so the 2-litre turbo diesels, very, very simple car, really easy to drive in that respect, but all the safety gear and some really nice sort of tasteful modifications on it. They're running 180 horsepower-ish, so not high powered, enough that you've got some oomph because the diesels are really torquey, but enough that it's not too much for people to handle if they're going into racing for the first time. And what's really unique about Focus Cup is the championship own and prep all of the fleet of cars. So the entire series is arrive and drive, which at the moment I think still is unique. It makes it really accessible in a lot of ways because you don't need to have that initial cost outlay of buying a car, buying a trailer, prepping it, everything else. You just turn up and they've got an entire team of mechanics all over the job, sorting everything out, and your car's ready when you get there. It's a brilliant way to race. Great paddock. The team there do a lot of work to get that show on the road every race weekend. It's really fun to be
That's
part of.
interesting. So I didn't realise it was an arrive and drive package. So how have you? Because obviously, traditionally, you think, okay, you buy yourself a car, you fix it up, or you buy it either a part built or a already built car. You got to get this. One thing I'm
Yeah,
at the minute is obviously I need to get a van because I need it to tow the trailer. Because in the past I've been getting
yeah.
people to do it, and I want to move it. So talk us through that arrive and drive. Then, what elements have you? Is it just a case of you put your entry in, you turn up, you've obviously got your helmet, your crash out, your suit, and all that kind of gear. So how does that work then during the day? I suppose you're a little bit more on the back lines from the maintenance aspect.
Yeah, in the nicest possible way. You don't really need to lift a finger. It's amazing. The team do so much for you, so you don't even need to put an entry in.
Right.
If you sign up with Focus Cup, you can do one round. There's no pressure. You can just do one and dip your toe in and see
Okay.
if you enjoy it. You don't have to commit to an entire season. You can
Mhm.
if you want, and a lot of people will. They'll just say, right, I want to do this for the year. I'm going to go and do that. There you go. But yeah, once you've signed up, there's a couple of forms to fill in with Focus Cup. That's it. They will take care of everything. So all you need to do is you do your briefing, which I think a lot of it's still online for some tracks. So you do your briefing and you sign on online before the meeting. You turn up on the Friday, and then you've got a day of testing on the
Mhm.
Friday, and then the Saturday you'll have a qualifying and 2 races, and you just say thank you very politely and go home afterwards.
Nice. So,
They just take care of.
so I suppose as a newer driver, then that's probably quite and maybe without having the. Because one thing that you obviously find is like you've got to have somebody hopefully trying to run your car while you're at an event, or you've got to have somebody to help you work on it. For instance, this weekend we're off up to the farm to go have a bit of a work on the Saxo again, and the person who's going to be coming and co-driving is coming up as well. But we're both not the best mechanics, I think, is the politest way of putting it. So I'd kind of taken
We
that
learn
pressure
stuff.
off you. So taking that pressure
Yeah,
off you and allowing you to then just kind of focus on the driving is really interesting.
that, that's what's been amazing for myself and a few other people that have been new to motorsport. Really, is just being able to focus on
Yeah, I like it.
the driving side of it. I'm here all week. The driving side of it and just enjoying
Yeah.
it, and you don't have to stress about a lot. If you feel like something needs tweaking or something's not quite right, tell your mechanics when you come in. They'll be all over it. They have a look at it. They sort it out. You literally bring your race license and all of your clothing, helmet.
Mhm.
That's it.
Nice.
Yeah, there's fuel, tires. It's all included, so
Okay,
it works
nice.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that quite. I think that's well
works out.
worthwhile looking at for some. And I suppose now to
Yeah,
move a little bit away from the racing side. Obviously, you're a driving instructor as well. So you
yeah.
really do have your jobs all around cars. So how
Yeah, probably really.
yeah, a little bit obsessed, I guess, with them. Um,
Yeah.
and how have you found that then? What kind of drove you into being, I suppose, first of all, why did you think, I'm going to become a driving instructor?
It just seemed like I am so far in this industry and I've got a lot of driving experience in other regards. It just seemed like a natural option. Plus, I knew that if I could get that qualification, I could actually qualify higher and move on to other things as
Mm,
well. So there was sort of a few reasons really why I looked at it. But yeah, it's a very challenging job.
yes,
Very
I can
challenging.
imagine because you're faced
Yeah.
with a lot of people, nervous people, people maybe don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I know when I first started driving, I'd been riding a motorbike, geared motorbike for like 2 years, 3 years. I actually It's strange to look back on now. I wasn't going to bother getting a driving license because I just rode motorbikes.
Yeah.
So I kind of took to it very easily, and also because I love motorsports. But I can imagine there's some frightening moments.
Yeah, it's sometimes anxiety inducing, yeah. But it is really rewarding. It is very rewarding to be able to teach somebody something that you're already passionate about. To me, that's a really nice thing. And to see that, not always young, but mostly, young person come along and not have that skill. They don't even know what pedal does what. It's their first lesson. They've got no idea. To then move on and pass a test is just a really nice thing, to think that you've guided them through that. But yeah, stressful. Thank God for dual controls, is all I'll say.
True. Have you found any kind of link with that and motorsport, or your career in motorsport with the driving instructing?
It's a strange one, because what I've found over my time of doing both is, not for everyone, but on the whole, there's a massive divide between driving instructing on the road learners and anything motorsport related. There seems to be almost a little bit, dare I say, a lack of respect between both parties. A lot of driving instructors aren't car people. They're not interested in racing. They're not, it's just their job.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of the time, they don't have any understanding or empathy, I don't know if that's the right word, for what happens within motorsport and that side of things. And the same the other way around. I find it can be a case that a lot of motorsport people can sometimes look down on a driving instructor because it's not as high level driving. And actually, I think both things have got a lot of challenges in completely different ways. And there's a small handful that do cross over, like myself, into both worlds, and we can see both sides of it. I mean, it's interesting when I meet people and they get to know that I race and I'm involved with motorsport. They assume that I am some kind of raging lunatic in the local 20-mile-an-hour zones.
Yeah.
It could literally not be any further from the truth. I am the most mundane driver because I've got an outlet.
Yes.
I can go racing and push my limits there, and that's fine. But on the road, I'm a massive advocate for road safety, and I've got projects coming up this year that I'm getting involved with the road safety side of things, because I'm really passionate about that as well. I just think cars are an amazing thing. They're my entire life. But they are really dangerous machines.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you should absolutely enjoy them.
Yeah, when you've got 1.5
in the right
ton
place,
of metal,
right time.
that's what you are basically controlling.
That's it. And I've worked in places like stunt schools. I've instructed there, and it's an amazing thing to do, because does it encourage people to do it out on the road? There's an argument. I don't think it does. You're going to get one or two idiots that think they can do it. But generally, I don't think it does. I think what it does is it teaches you the skills and the understanding of how that car's handling and the dynamics of that car, what it's going to do, how it's going to behave by the inputs you're giving it. And if you can improve someone's understanding of that, you're going to reduce the risk that they're going to lose control in a real life situation. Yes. I do a lot of work with like skid pans and stuff like that. And I'm trying to push people to lose control of a car in a controlled environment, because it's the same as aquaplaning or hitting ice.
That's it. What other scenario can you controllably do that in a safe manner and learn that skill? There isn't.
There isn't, and no one gets to do it. And you can guarantee that most people, the first time I send them over the skid pan, they cannot come out of that skid. They just spin. If that happens out on the road, it's too late. You're done. You're only going to stop when something is immovable.
Yes.
A wall,
heavier
a tree,
or bigger
whatever.
than you are. Yeah.
Or another car. Yeah, and it's just not worth people's lives. People just take so much of a blasé attitude towards road safety, and it's just it's so frustrating. I would love everybody to enjoy the performance cars they've got. Just, pick and choose your moments. Don't do anything that's crazy, because, if you got that call one day because one of your
Yeah,
family has been involved in an incident, it's
absolutely.
heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
So I'm passionate about both
So, how
sides.
do you feel regarding the sort of driving test and license protocol? 'Cause I'm not obviously. It's been quite a few years since I passed my driving license, but I know in some of the Scandinavian countries there's a lot more emphasis on things like having to do skid pan control and all these. And as far as I'm
Yeah,
aware, we don't have that, despite it being a very
no,
wet, cold country. So, what's your kind of
yeah,
view and take on that as a driving instructor? Do you think it's good enough? What the past requirements
no,
are? Do you think they need more?
yeah, no, it's not good enough at all. Probably get struck off the register now for saying that. But well, my opinion is it's not
Mhm.
good enough. The standard on the actual test that you need to drive to, I agree with all of the
Mm.
marking procedure that's in place. I don't think it's good enough what we have as learning material
Okay.
and the frequency. So there's not enough skill taught in the first place. I do think it's so beneficial for somebody to understand the physics and the
Mm.
dynamics of what a car is going to do.
Yes, weight
Um,
distribution, even things like this on how it's moving the suspension. That makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and I know there's a couple of mostly pointless questions that you get asked by the examiner. Your examiner might ask you, for example, how would you check that your tyres are safe for use on the road? That student has more than likely
Mm.
memorized the worded answer. But if I gave them a tyre, they wouldn't be able to tell me what was wrong with it.
Yeah.
And I don't expect everyone to turn into a mechanic, but I get my students out of the car and I'll go, right, this is the tyre, the black round bit. And I go through the whole question and actually get them to
Explain
do it
it,
as they say it and
visualize
look.
it, do it.
Yeah, because otherwise it's not going to stick and it's not going to
Mm.
make sense. And I think, like, tyre safety, your tyres are the only thing touching
Yes.
the
Yeah.
ground. Like, as well as other things on the car, you don't have to be a mechanic, but you can learn how to check your
Mm.
fluids. You can learn how to look underneath and just check nothing's hanging down. Those sort of things are so basic that we should really be pushing those as a safety point. And we don't, as well as, like you say, the Scandi countries focusing a lot on ice driving and stuff, which is obvious. They get a lot more than we do. But we are, like you say, a wet, cold country. It would be amazing to be able to have a more in-depth system. And you can fluke a test and then you can drive
Mm.
horrendously after that. And you can do it your entire life and nobody checks.
I think,
To me, I would test people every 10 years.
yeah.
Your license has got a 10-year expiry and it's not the card. Your license is 10 years, end of question. And it's either expired or
Yeah.
it's not. And you have to get
Yeah, because
retested
it's not as if,
because we learn so.
yeah, you're not going to need to do a full series of driving lessons again. You may just do a touch up here, there.
No,
Um,
well, that's it. It's a refresher. It's a refresher more than anything. And it's just an assessment.
mhm.
And if there's any major issues, then they can
Yeah,
be,
sort it out.
brought up and dealt with.
Uh,
But the roads change.
they do.
There's people who've had licenses for sort of 50, 60 years, and it's not necessarily that they're any worse. They might not be. But the roads have changed massively. Like,
Definitely,
one of the
definitely.
things I get asked a lot by the parents now is, oh, well, they've had 3 lessons. Can they book their test yet? No, they can't. They're not ready yet. Well, I only did 7 lessons or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but that was when? And they'll tell me the year. I said, how many cars were on the road in that year?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
not necessarily their car control that's in question. That bit's quite easy to teach.
Mhm.
It's situational awareness, planning ahead as a driver. That's the bit that is really difficult to teach somebody who doesn't have any natural
Yeah,
awareness.
definitely.
And the roads are so busy and the driving standards are so bad. You have to expect the unexpected at every single turn, and that's where people are getting caught
Yeah.
out. it's not necessarily that they've done anything wrong. They've just got caught up in somebody else's error.
Definitely, I'd agree with that. I mean, 20 years ago, I probably passed my driving test, something like that. And the difference that the roads are now is massive. The difference in the cars is massive. You're getting people with these incredibly powerful cars out of the factory. And if an electrical aid goes wrong on it, they don't have any control. And I also, I did my motorbike license first. And what I found in that compared to the car stuff was the focus, like you say, on the safety and anticipating what was happening, looking around you more. And I used to say people, I always felt that driving license or to do a driving, like you need to almost do a motorbike license to have that being able to observe and look around you, because in a car you've got a wall of metal around you, so you can be, I suppose, a little bit ignorant to what's going around and survive.
You feel safer
Yes,
when on the bike. You're not as vulnerable.
that's it.
Yeah,
But
100%.
you don't have that.
I find that if I have anyone in anything that I do, if I have someone who rides a bike, they generally tend to be better, purely because they've got more awareness, and usually they have a little bit more dynamic understanding as well, because yes, a car is moving underneath you, but you don't feel it like you do on a bike.
Yes, definitely. I think, and certainly when you've not had any of that before, it's an interesting one actually. I'm thinking we're coming up to an hour, so we should probably wrap it up. But I want to do another one with you about driving instructing, to be honest, because I think it's a really interesting one. Because especially as well when we think of young people, and hopefully as this audience grows, wicked impacts on younger people coming in. We all have this love of motorsport, and at some point we're probably going to do a driving test. I'm fortunate I have a colleague who actually develops the speed awareness course.
We need to liaise about this. I'm working a little bit alongside that at the moment.
I shall get the details for you. But yeah, I feel like we need to go into this in more detail at some point in the future. So
sounds good to me.
I think we'll end it there for now. Before I see, this is where Andrew comes in, because Andrew would have gone, "You're going off on a tangent. Stop it already."
You mean people don't want to listen to a 4-hour podcast with me and you just talking about driving tests?
We'll just space it over a couple of them. It's fine. That's what we'll do. That's what we'll do. We'll have a break and then we'll do another one, and it'll all be about safety on the road, which I am.
You'll never shut me up about that.
I mean, I find that now, as a younger boy, I was a bit stupid. But I was also.
No one's an angel all the time.
That's it. I had this conversation with my partner recently following a therapy session, and it was to do with about recklessness. And because I've got PTSD and other things I grew up with, was very much cars. I street drift, straight race, the worst you can get. And I look back now and think, what the heck? But I think that now it's like, I actually don't have any of those recklessness, because it's like, what's the point on the road? I'd rather enjoy the drive, and then I'll go race a car, or I'll go, we're going to do some karts in a couple of weeks. And things like that. So I think it's an interesting topic that we will do again and go into more, definitely, if you'd be up for that. I think that'll be really good.
Definitely.
So yeah, thank you very much for coming along. It's been really interesting. Really interesting about the Focus Cup and the Arrive and Drive, and kind of how that journey went through, and the ads and those kind of series. I think are really key, probably to kind of starting off in motorsport, and especially if you don't have that full team, with you, and you can't drag everybody in and help you. I think that's really interesting. So it's been really good, and thank you very much for coming on, Sarah. And I hope you all the best with the 2024 season. And I hope you
thank you.
Flat out, foot down, job's a good one.
Try my best.
That's it. Right, so let's end it there. Thank you everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next week. Bye everybody.